Okay, so we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening for whomever is joining us today. Can you believe this is the final discussion of our Jurassic Park Lost World read along? I can't believe it. It feels like we just started this for some reason, and yet we have read 2 full books by Michael Crichton about these dinosaurs. And boy, do we have some opinions and feelings about this particular book, I know for sure. But before we get into all of our lovely discussion, let's go around and introduce ourselves. And just to get it out of the way, because it's one of the easiest things we forget to mention, let's talk about our rating of our book, Lost World. So as you introduce yourself, go ahead and just give us a rating out of 5 to 1, 5 being best, 1 being the worst, and kind of what your thoughts are there with your rating. And then we'll kind of go around. So whoever wants to start, and then we'll just go in that circle direction. So whoever would like to go first, go ahead.
I'll go first. I'm Victoria. My channel is A Musical Bookworm, and I ended up giving this book 3 stars. My overall thoughts were that I had a lot of fun, especially with the second half. It was still a really fun read. In the last live stream, we were talking about like how the first half of the book, like nothing really happened like very quickly at all. It was just a really slow build up. And then the second half of the book really, I think, delivered a lot more in the action, fast-paced way. So that was fun. But I did feel like there were quite a few just like structural flaws and just some weird, I don't know, repetitions of like tropes from the first book to the second book. And some of it just felt forced to me and felt kind of clunky. So I ended up going with 3 stars. Like it was a really fun read. I don't know if I'll ever read it again, but it was a fun read in the end. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
I guess that makes me next. I'm Sarah from Sarah MG Reads, and I hardcore disliked this book. Like, I think hate would be maybe too strong of a word, but like very much disliked. I like the first book to me was a 5-star book, and so this one was like super disappointing. It was totally repetitive, like Victoria said, and the fact that everywhere they went, they were followed by this little band of raptors. It was almost comical that these raptors would eat and eat and eat, but then they'd still always be 3 feet behind you. And every time there was a pause, he would throw in, oh, and then the raptors came along. And it was just so bad. And the characters were horrible people. Everything about it I really disliked. I gave it 2 stars because for me 1 star means like just complete garbage, and I don't think it was complete garbage, but 2 stars.
I can seriously not wait to hear your thoughts later in our discussion. Laura, you want to introduce yourself and give us your rating?
Hi, I'm Laura. My channel is Book Bubbler, and I gave this 3 out of 5. Like Victoria said too, it was good. The first half was very boring, like lots of setup essentially, and then a lot of nothing. But the second half did have action that was something. But Sarah, I agree with your points too. Like it was like, oh, look, raptors. I mean, they're just everywhere, and what it's convenient. And I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't know if I'll ever reread it, like you said, but it was fine. It was like middle of the road. It was fine. So yeah, just a 3.
I'm very much the same. I was hindering, like halfway through the book, I was hindering between a 2.5 and a 3. And then as we got into the second half of the book, I was getting more towards the 3 because there was more action. And I really liked the Sarah Harding character. Like the fact that she was like the force behind everything really made me happy because she's a female character and she was, making sure that this other female character wasn't putting herself down, which I really liked. So that pushed it up to a 3, but I really couldn't go past the 3 because of a lot of the things that you all have said. Like, it was repetitive. A lot of the characters just stank. Like, they just weren't good. Especially characters that we're already familiar with, were not the character they were previously in our recollection. And to me, like, my fear of raptors, seriously, they're everywhere. They won't go away. So for me, I'm just like, again, with the raptors, can we be done with these darn raptors? So, I mean, I couldn't push it past a 3. I just felt like there were whole pages where I kind of like just went, don't have to read that, because I was like, why do we care what Malcolm is thinking while he's in his little morphine-induced coma in the trailer when there's all this action happening over here? I don't care what he thought about cats and dogs when he was in his, undergraduate degree. What does that have to do with anything? So I didn't even read those sections. I would be like, this doesn't have anything to do with anything. So I just moved on. Anyway. I'm Danny, by the way. This is my channel, Spinelli Speaks. And I like to read books. I don't think that I'll like unhaul these by any means. I really did like the first book, and I didn't rate it 5 stars only because of the ending got weird. So I felt like that kind of went off in a weird direction. And Lost World, even though it's a 3, so it's like in the middle, it's still like a book I liked. I liked it way more than I thought I was going to like it, just based on thinking I knew what the book was about. So it was nice to like have a brand new book, so to speak. So that was cool. And in this one, I actually liked the kids. So that helped too. So I think I would definitely keep these. I'm not going to unhaul them by any means, but I don't think I would reread them. I don't reread a lot of books. And when I do reread books, I'm like a classics rereader. I don't really reread contemporary novels. Unless they really meant something to me and I have the time, which who has the time to reread? Let's be frank. There's like a bajillion books out in the world and you're going to reread something. I don't get that. Anywho, that's a tangent for another day. But if you're watching this in replay, please do feel free to comment on anything that we're discussing here in the comments below, and share with your friends if they are Jurassic Park and Lost World lovers as well. So let's go ahead and move on into some of the questions that we have prepared today. And quite frankly, we just need to get one right out of the way immediately. Actually, because I'm losing my mind here, we're actually going to talk about the bingo board first. So as you know, Laura created some lovely bingo boards for us. And we're going to take a look at that and see how everyone did. So if you did the bingo board, let's see how you did it. I'm going to share my screen here, so bear with me because this is always fun when I do this. Okay. So let's take a look. So we have the bingo board here, and it's kind of a different kind of board. It's more of like if you've done it, you're this level of dinosaur. So the first level we have here is Velociraptor. That's read a book published in 1995 and read a book about or featuring dinosaurs, which I think if you read Lost World, you qualify. Correct, yep. Laura?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're all Velociraptors. Let's get out of this one because we know how much I love Velociraptors. So the second one is Triceratops. So Sherlock Holmes and read a sequel. Laura, do you want to explain this one?
Sure. So spoilers for everyone who hasn't read the book yet or read the first book, which I don't know why you'd be here if you didn't, but just in case, spoilers. So near the end, at the end of the first book, it's assumed that Dr. Malcolm is dead. They have a funeral for him and everything, but really, psych, he's alive. And Crichton
he was only slightly dead.
Yes, only slightly dead. He had Miracle Max with him.
Mostly dead.
Yeah. And Crichton got the idea to resurrect Malcolm because he was the favorite character apparently for everybody, but based on Sherlock Holmes, because everyone thinks Sherlock Holmes dies, Reichenbach falls when he's fighting with Moriarty, but psych, he didn't. So I keep saying psych. I don't know what's wrong with me. So Sherlock Holmes was to either watch something Sherlock Holmesy or read a Sherlock Holmes story, listen to something, or again, reading this book qualifies because it is sort of a resurrection from Sherlock Holmes.
Nice. And then read a sequel. So hypothetically, again, if you read Lost World, you are a Triceratops.
Yep.
Here's where it gets sticky. Stegosaurus. Watch a movie from 1997 or a movie by Steven Spielberg. Now, I know for a fact that none of us watched the movie.
I watched the first movie, but not the second.
Yeah. So 1997. I'd have to look. I haven't even watched movies recently, so I don't even know if I have watched a movie by Steven Spielberg. So I'm very naughty. Oops. So I guess I'm a Triceratops. Anyone else get past Triceratops?
Does the first movie count? Because I did watch the first movie this month.
Sure. Yeah, let's count.
Well, yeah, for Steven Spielberg.
Okay, I'm a Stegosaurus. Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then our final box, which I think is hilarious, is Tyrannosaurus Rex, which is be a dinosaur in public, which for me, I was not a dinosaur in public. However, my niece and nephew who live in Germany right now, they went trick-or-treating and they had the big dinosaur costumes. They both had dinosaur costumes. I was like, oh my gosh, they're being dinosaurs in public. And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I did it at work between clients, so don't think I walked into someone's massage room and was like or something. I didn't, but I was in public and I did it down the hallway too, so someone could have seen me. But yeah.
Okay. So you skipped over our Stegosaurus and went right to T-Rex.
Pretty much, yeah. I will be watching this movie later tonight, though. I will say so. Retroactively, I'll be one, but yeah.
There you go. You have until the end of the day. And then, of course, pose like Jeff Goldblum. I know that before we started our live show, we all posed like Jeff Goldblum, so we all did it. But I have to show a funny picture. If you are familiar with Cool Hand Luke, a movie from ages ago with Paul Newman, excellent film if you haven't seen it. He actually is the original Jeff Goldblum poser. I mean, hello. I wonder if Jeff Goldblum was like, I'm going to pose like Cool Hand Luke. Because, I mean, hello. It's pretty obvious that this was the original pose.
Yeah.
I don't know. Which one's better, do you think? Jeff Goldblum or Paul Newman?
They're both pretty good.
They're both really good.
They are. Mm-hmm.
They are both pretty good. I will have to say, as much as I love Jeff Goldblum, Paul Newman, he's something else back in the day. So I don't know. That's a hard one to pick.
What do you mean back in the day?
I don't know. The only time I really see Paul Newman anymore is on my dressing bottle. So
I know. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now that we got the silly stuff out of the way, let's go back to the question I was going to ask before because I'm losing my mind here. But seriously, getting stuff out of the way, we have to talk about Malcolm. Seriously, WTF Malcolm? What is the deal with this character from what we saw in Jurassic Park to what we see here in Lost World and how he devolves again? So whoever would like to shout out some opinions, feel free, and we'll kind of whoever wants to say something can add their 2 cents. But I just knew we had to talk about this because it is like the big T-Rex in the room. Like, what is going on with Malcolm?
I honestly don't know why you would resurrect a character and then turn him into such an idiot. Everybody liked Malcolm for certain personality qualities that he had. And then in this one, he completely changes, and the drunken stupor or the morphine induced stupid talk, like it was incoherent, it was dumb. Well, I didn't like it. He should have made a new character, a new sexy character, if he wanted to make a new sexy character.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Malcolm was this character was one of my main problems with this book. And this was like just also a repeat in some ways of what happened to him in the first book. Oh, he got hurt and now he's incapacitated just like he was in the first book, and just lying down while everybody else is trying to like not get him killed. So it was like, if you bring him back, like you went through the effort of bringing him back, why are we doing the same story with him again? It didn't make any sense to me. I don't know. It's like he was just there to philosophize. Like that was him in the book. Like that was really the only purpose he served. Yeah, I don't know. It was just like, why would you bring him back and do the same thing again with him?
Yeah, I know. I was hopeful that the first half he seemed not like he was in the first book near the end. I'm like, oh, maybe he seemed more redemptive at the beginning, like concerned about Levine and looking into things. He seemed like how you would expect a doctor of his status to behave with things. So I was thinking, oh, this is great. Like, it's not the same. And then as soon as that second half hit, same thing. It was like, what the hell? I mean, like you mentioned too, Danny, there were like whole pages. I was like, yeah, I don't care about any of this. Like next, I mean, I don't care about cats and dogs that you did. Like, yeah, really a bummer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was, I'm a big Malcolm fan. And even in the first book, I did really like him. There was a few instances where he was in his little dribble morphine, diarrhea of the mouth that was very annoying. And I put that past because I was like, he is a really great character. And I didn't really think about the fact that he really didn't do anything for the full second half of the book because he was being hurt. But then in the second novel, very much like you said, Laura, you're like, oh, he's like a real person now. He actually cares about other human beings. He's actually thinking through things and he's listening to other people. So it was like, wow, okay, so maybe this character is really going to have a full evolution and be someone that we can really look to as the strong person in this book. If you're familiar with the movie, you see that in the movie. You do not see that in this book. And the moment my thinking kind of like clicked over, like, oh, this is going downhill, is the moment where the mathematician starts babbling on about dinosaur interactions, or the fact that they, leave spores and that how they interact with one another. And I'm like, since when do you know any of this information? Mm-hmm. And then why in the world, after being attacked by a Tyrannosaurus Rex in the first book, would you put yourself on an island with even more dinosaurs that are not caged, that are not put into anything? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? This is one of the main things that irritated me about the book Little Bee. Why would you put yourself into the same violent situation later on in the same story? It doesn't make any sense. And then again, for him to be hurt and then to just lay there for the rest of the book. And it's much different than the first book. In the first book, where he was located when he was hurt, there wasn't really a lot of danger. He was in a room. Yes, the raptors were trying to come through the windows, but all in all, he was protected in a sense. In this one, they literally had to like carry him places and put a rope around him and like get him out of the trailer and he's doped up this whole time. So he is of no use whatsoever. So he's like a dead body basically that they're just hauling around, which is not safe for anyone. I mean, he's basically dead weight. Why put that in the book? It's repetitive. It's lazy writing. Why in the world would you resurrect a character, like we've all said, just to put him through the same cycle? And even when he's going through his dribble, now it's not very philosophizery. It's literally just dribble. It's just him like, oh, the prions, the sheep. Oh. Then he starts singing a song. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. And to me, all I kept thinking was, well, it's clear he's addicted to morphine because he had it in the last book. Now he's gone through all this time and he's like, oh, lifts his shirt up. He's like, yeah, right here. Does she need any? Okay, put some in me. Like, I really liked Malcolm. Really liked him. And by the end of this book, I was like, that was so pointless to have him in this book. You could have easily made that character the Levine character. You could have cut Malcolm straight out of this book and it wouldn't have mattered. If Malcolm was gone, it would have been the same book, just less dribble. I was so annoyed. I can't believe that they just totally ruined a character that you could have just left dead. I
agree.
Infuriating. So, anywho, moving on. Does anyone have any last words about Malcolm? I'm sure we'll talk about him again later, but for right now, the WTF of just like, why are you even here? And I was like, maybe he's gonna kill him again. Maybe he's gonna fall off the motorcycle or something and just like be eaten by the raptors that are always there.
By the end, I was hoping he would fall off the motorcycle and get eaten.
Right?
Just pointless. Absolutely pointless. The only thing I can think of is that they needed him for the movie. But yeah, I'm going to write a letter. Anyway, let's move on to the other characters because there are a lot of other characters in the book. Some are great and some aren't so great. But of the characters, we kind of talked about this in the first live stream of this particular book, and we talked about who we kind of liked and who we have issues with. Have any of our thoughts changed, or do we have any more solidified thoughts about certain characters? What are your thoughts? And before I can kind of remind you of the characters, because there aren't very many. There's about 7, I think. So there's the 3 bad guys, which are Dodgson, who's like the ringleader, and then we have like, I think it's like Basilton or something like that. And then Howard King. So those 3 have come to the island to steal eggs. And Dodgson was in the first book, he wanted the embryos. So it's following that same plot line. Then we have all of our good characters, I guess. You have the Richard Levine, who is basically why everyone came to the island. We have Malcolm, of course, who we've kind of discussed already. We have Sarah Harding. We have Dr. Thorne. We have Eddie Carr. And then we also have the children, Kelly and Arby. So what are your kind of thoughts about characters? Are there any characters in particular you have issues with, particularly like? Let's hear it.
I'll start, I guess. I felt bad for Eddie. I mean, I don't think he was the greatest person in the world, and he wasn't the worst by any means, but throughout the book, he keeps trying to bring up questions and like, shouldn't we do this instead, and everything else. And Thorne, who is in charge of making specifically the Jeeps or whatever, all the stuff. Thorne keeps like poo-pooing him and saying, no, we don't have to do this. But Eddie is smart enough to go like, no, we're bringing back up. Like, I'm not telling anyone, like, I'm bringing gasoline, whatever. So I felt kind of bad for him that he was always just kind of, I don't know, ignored, forgotten, because he was a smart dude and I don't know, didn't deserve to get ripped apart by raptors necessarily. I felt bad for him. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I have to say, Eddie was the only character that I like in this book. Like everyone else, I actively dislike. He's the only one who didn't do anything super ridiculous or say something super gross or sexist or
Mhm.
Like, he was the only character who just kind of did what he did and just went along and lived his life and tried to help out.
Mhm.
I'm going to echo what Danny said earlier. I did like what happened with the female characters, like Sarah Harding. That was one of our questions we had in the last live stream was what, like, are the female characters going to kind of fall into this, like, damsel in distress kind of thing? But actually, like, Sarah Harding was a huge impetus for the plot and the story, and I liked what happened with her and, like, the relationship between the younger girl, and kind of like the female empowerment there, and like building up the younger generation. I thought that was nice. So that was something I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect that to be like written well, and so I was pleasantly surprised by that. So I was like, okay, there's one redeeming quality of this character dynamic.
I found it to be problematic though. Like, Sarah Harding is it. I feel like I think Michael Crichton probably is very much a product of his generation. And I think maybe he was trying to write a strong female character, but the only way he could write a strong female character was to make somebody physically strong, and like kind of a bully in mentally. And I think you're right about her relationship with the little girl. I think there was some really nice stuff in there, but one thing that super stuck out to me is, like, she's in the middle. I can't remember who she was saving, but she's in the middle of like saving somebody by grabbing them, and they're like, "Oh, you're so strong," and she goes,
Yeah.
"But still feminine." And like, I wanted to barf. It was so
Yeah,
barfy.
that's true.
That made me
And-
laugh out loud. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think while it was nice to have, a strong female character, I think she was a bit caricaturized, as just sort of like a beefy but feminine woman. I don't think she had much depth. And then what she did in the very end of the book, I think, was horrible. Horrible. The way she pushed the guy out from under the car, like she murdered the guy.
That's true.
It's true.
I don't know how you.
Yeah, but he kind of tried to murder her. So
Yeah. We weren't supposed to have empathy for that guy because he is a villain.
Yeah.
like an evil villain. So yeah. No, I definitely see your points though.
yeah. No, and all those things kind of stuck out to me too, but I think I was so like happy that the female character was the one that was doing everything. But there was a lot of times too where I felt like she was really reckless. And I had to pause and I had to think to myself, like, okay, if this was a male character, would I think that was reckless or would I think that was like brave? But I still felt like it was reckless because, like, she's like, okay, I'm going to jump on the motorcycle. And I'm thinking, like, there's no protection on a motorcycle. Like, you're just going to go out where there's 12 raptors. You've explained this. And they're savage. They're not even like, they don't even operate the way you think they're supposed to operate. So you have no idea how they're going to react. And you know that they learn. Every time that they try something and it doesn't work, they try it a different way. So every time she would like just jump out, I'm going to the truck. I'm going over here. I'm going over here. I kept thinking like, oh, can you pause for a second and just think about it? And then I was like, but am I doing this because she's a female or am I doing this because it's reckless? So I had a lot of time thinking about that. Every time she was like muscular and stuff, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm sorry. She is a very strong person inside and out, but it doesn't make sense. Like, even the men, when they're just like, he picks up the cage with their 11-year-old boy in it. You're telling me one person picked up a metal, like fabricated cage with a 90-pound child in it and just swung it up onto the Jeep. And I don't know if anyone's familiar what Jeeps look like. But where in the world did that cage fit in a Jeep? How big is this cage? Because it must be only a child-size cage. Because if it was for an adult, There's no way that fit into a Jeep, let alone a Raptor who's what did they say, 6 feet tall, also fit in the Jeep while you're driving said Jeep. I have Jeeps. I've had Jeeps. There's no way that fit in a Jeep. Maybe the new Jeep Wrangler that's half Jeep, half truck, but that just now was released. So I don't know, Michael Crichton. I don't know if you had some specialized Jeeps made back then, but there's no way any of this stuff fit. And that this one guy just picked it up and threw it in the Jeep. Like, what? And then when Sarah pulls Thorn from the cliff by his hair, like,
I know.
I don't think so. So Sarah, how you were saying, a lot of problematic pieces with her, and the feminine comment, like, it's like eye roll worthy. But at the same time, as a female reader, you're kind of just like, okay, I'm going to forgive that for now because you are a badass. And I really enjoy how you are showing up all these men, especially Levine, who in the beginning was like fearless and was going into this jungle and basically lived in the jungle at that laboratory for like days and had no issues, by the way, which is odd, especially what we find out later that is happening around that laboratory. Like, you're telling me in those 3 days you're there by yourself, you never got eaten by all of those. None of these animals came out because of the one humanoid that was there. But now all of a sudden that there's many, now there's like animals coming out of the trees, and then he turned into a total weenie at the end. He was terrible. Like, the amount of times that we're referred, like, how he's sweating, like, I don't care. Who cares about his sweat glands? Like, I don't care. He is clearly a wiener. Like, he doesn't he should have died. He should have been Eddie. He should have fell off that high. He should have died, not Eddie. Eddie was the only one that was like, maybe, no. And then he was protecting those kids, which really stings. Anytime someone who is so carefully trying to protect those that are less fortunate, meaning these kids, because obviously they're children, and then they're the ones that get killed. It makes me so mad. Mm-hmm. And I really thought that Eddie was, of the two that fall off the high height at the exact same time, you think Eddie's the one they're going to kill? They're going to go for the little boy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of issues with these characters. Of the 3 bad guys, I felt bad for Howard King because I feel like he was like roped in to the whole thing and he really didn't want to do it, but he was being blackmailed. Mm-hmm. So I felt bad that he died. I didn't feel bad for any other people. I do see your point though, Sarah, about what Sarah Harding does under that Explorer, because if you think about it, it's like, it's human to human at this point. Yes, he is a terrible person, and he did try to kill her. But when it comes down to it, yeah, it's very murderous, and shows little to no compassion. But at the same time, I was pretty pleased that he got eaten by little T-Rexes because he deserved it.
That's how I felt. I was like, good.
What a disgusting human being.
I thought he would have fallen off, like when Eddie fell off. I thought that Levine was going to fall off because he was just sort of too into watching what was happening. So I was waiting for him to kick it then. Like, good, send him over the side, let him get eaten right away. And then it was Eddie. I was like, no, don't you know how this is supposed to work, Crichton? Come on.
Yeah. Well, and because of the first book, really only the bad people die and all the good people survive. So I was like, oh, he's not going to kill any of the good people. He might kill Levine because Levine's really the issue here. He's blinded by this observing, but he's like, when he alerted those, what was this, Aposauruses or whatever, and they started to walk towards him, and in his head, he's like, oh my gosh, I've just disturbed the, I'm thinking, yeah, you've disturbed a lot of things. This isn't, you can't just observe like you can't just set things up. You're disturbing the entire environment, which they bring up a good point when the T-Rexes come and they're just trying to push the stuff off because this wasn't here before, so this needs to go.
Levine was one of the characters that grated on me the most. I didn't really enjoy his character ever. Like, I just felt like he was arrogant, and then he like didn't appreciate when people would help him when he was like in danger, and he'd be like, "No, I was fine. Like, I wasn't in danger. It's fine." And it's like, "Yeah, we just saved your life."
Oh, me.
He really annoyed me as a character, and I just never liked him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I thought it was weird when every time that he went out by himself, no raptors, nothing bothering him. Mm-hmm. But whenever they really needed to get somewhere, there was just raptors everywhere, just everywhere. And it just bothered me. And the motorcycle, like every time someone went off on a motorcycle by themselves, I was like, I don't know why you think this is okay. Like, why aren't you in tanks? Like,
the other thing about the motorcycle too is like I'm envisioning like a lot of foliage and trees and stuff, and I'm like, how are you guys getting around on a motorcycle like so fast? And there's like, this is like a forest, right? That's what, at least in my mind, it was. I'm like, how are you getting around on a motorcycle in like a dense foliage that's just like overgrown on this island that wouldn't have been like maintained for years? Like, it's not like there's room to ride a motorcycle, you know what I mean?
Well, even the Jeeps and the Explorer, they're just like, oh, we're gonna use these game trails, or oh, it's not dense here, so we can just drive this Jeep. There's so many like things that didn't make sense. And even knowing that there was like a community there previously, they were only in that one spot. There weren't like all these trails and stuff there. I think there was one where Levine finds in the very beginning of the book, and that's how he finds the laboratory, is that there's like a trail that was for vehicles. But they were touching as little amount of the island as they could. So when these people come, like, what? And the other thing that gets me too, I think there was one instance where they mentioned birds. And I was like, finally, other animals. Like, you can't tell me that this is only dinosaurs on this island. There had to be birds. And I know they mentioned spiders a few times. And then all of a sudden they mention rats when they're, because, when you're going through vents, the worst thing in the world is to see a rat. But I'm thinking, like, where are all these other animals? Like, can't dinosaurs eat other animals? Why are they always just eating themselves? Like, the raptors, especially when, like, they're, like, eating each other. But is that cannibalism? Because technically another dinosaur is in the same, like, species. I don't know. There was too much thinking while I was reading this book.
I think that's one of the things, like, you have to kind of suspend a lot of disbelief. Yeah. And that's the only way you can really, like, enjoy some of these books written at this time. Like, yeah. There's just a lot of, like, don't think about it. Don't think too hard. just go with it.
I have one more observation about Sarah Harding before we leave this question. When she pushed the guy out from under the Jeep, I was like, no, she's not. She's not. And then when the T-Rex picked him up and gently took him back to the nest, I thought, oh, it's okay. She knew what she was doing, and she knew that he must have like some sort of dino smell on him from when he stole the egg. And I thought that the T-Rexes thought that he was one of their babies. Because remember, they came to save the baby. So I thought, oh, okay, well, she knew that the T-Rexes would just think he's their baby and ha on him. And then when they ate him, I was like, oh my God, no, there's no way to excuse what she did. There's no excuse at all. I don't know if anyone else thought that was going to happen or no.
No, I knew. I knew as soon as it was like just kind of carefully picking him up, I was like, oh, this is bringing it back for food.
Yeah.
But I think to more to your point, Sarah, there's a part where Sarah Harding is in the Explorer on like a ridge of some kind, and she sees the T-Rex going, and she can see Dodgson still in the mouth, like screaming. And I think she specifically says she feels nothing for him.
Yeah.
So I think to your point, it's pretty clear that she's like, I'm totally okay with what just happened.
Yeah.
So
That's cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on from this question? I know we kind of drilled it like a, I don't know, something you drill. Okay.
Like an ice fishing hole.
There you go. There you go. And as we go, some of these questions we've kind of touched on, so we can get through some of them a little bit more, but there's a lot. I mean, you could sit and talk about this book for hours because there's so many instances where, like you said, Victoria, you have to just like, it's fiction. We're just going to enjoy this and keep moving. But the island itself, so we know that this island is where the Indian community was creating the dinosaurs, and there was a lot of issues with that before they would bring those dinosaurs to Jurassic Park. So it's literally a lost world, as Levine and Malcolm put it, where these animals are flourishing, so to speak. But as we get farther into the book, we find out exactly what the problems are. So now that we know everything about the island, so to speak, what are our thoughts about this? And how do you move on from knowing there's an enormous amount of predators on this island?
I don't know.
I, for one, was like really getting annoyed with the fact that they weren't just saying what they wanted to say. Like we had to wait until the final 3 pages to find out what the problem was.
Yeah.
Because Malcolm kept coming in and out of his stupor with the sheep extract or whatever they were using to feed the dinosaurs. And hear me, I mean, I don't know anything about science and feeding of dinosaurs or even zoo animals. So I was really annoyed with the fact that I had to wait until the final 3 pages to figure out what is happening. And then it was kind of just like, blah, blah, blah. The dinosaurs are savage because they basically have mad cow disease because of these prions or whatever from the sheep extract, and which causes them to go crazy essentially. And that's why these raptors are essentially just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But the island itself, I feel like, so it's left untouched again. So you're going to have done all this weird crap and have all these people die on this island, and then you're just going to leave with no like epilogue of like, what are you going to do about the island? Now the island's just there and there's all these dinosaurs. I don't know if you know anything about the world, Michael Crichton, but land never gets untouched. Someone else is going to go there. Someone else is going to find what's there, and someone else is going to die. So where's your closure? Where's the ending? What is going on with this island? You can't just leave it.
I wonder if he left it open like that, thinking maybe he would write a 3rd book. This is the only thing I could think is like leaving it open-ended on purpose and like, oh, well, that island's still there, but at least we got out alive and we'll just ignore it now. Like, no way, like, that wouldn't really happen. I'm wondering if he just did that so he could be like, well, if they want me to write a 3rd book, and a 3rd book never happened, I think. So yeah, that's the only logic I can think behind that decision.
Yeah, same.
I'm not a science person either, but I did think it was kind of fitting with the theme of like man playing God and the destructive like results of that, and this island being that byproduct as well. Of, well, we thought we destroyed it, but actually there's also this bigger problem on this island that's not dealt with. And I think that's part of the like man playing God theme and like the problems of man creating life. So I actually kind of like that theme, and the fact that this island exists because it makes sense. Like, yeah, they wouldn't just be able to create a dinosaur perfectly on the first try. They would have had all these like aberrations and problems along the way first. And so I actually think that is a cool theme of this book.
Do we ever find out, and maybe I just missed that point, maybe I skipped that page, but what happened to all of the people? Like all of the sign, like did they leave because they're like, this isn't working, they blew up the other island, so we're out? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
There were no fences, there's nothing. So how do they live with the dinosaurs? It didn't make any sense. Like, I didn't understand. And there was no like sign of like carnage, so to speak. So for me, it seemed like they just left. They just all up and left. But even that being said, they were living amongst these dinosaurs. There was no like fencing. So you created a bunch of raptors and these chameleon things, which that blew me away. That was like, what are these?
Yeah.
I've never seen these in the original, the original movies. And we know, if you've seen, I've only seen the first of the new franchise. We know in that movie, there's a dinosaur that can chameleon themselves or whatever. But I'm just like, what is happening? There's so many questions in this book that is what is so disappointing between Jurassic Park and Lost Rose. Yes, Jurassic Park, there's questions, but you're so into it. It's so fast paced. It's such a good book that when you get into this one, all you're doing is questioning, what happened? What happened with that? And what happened at that? And I'm sorry, raptors swim. So how did you take a boat from the boathouse and just mosey on down the river? I think we're pretty confident in the fact that these raptors can pretty much do anything. Mm-hmm. So they just left you alone?
They were like a plot device, really, just to keep pushing forward. Mm-hmm. So for what you were saying about the prion disease, I think that around the time that this book was published, mad cow disease was a big thing in Europe. And I think that this book was kind of just playing into that popular fear, because when prion disease, now I don't know when prions were discovered or the very beginning, but it was definitely big in the 90s because people in England were getting like the human version of mad cow disease. And I don't know if you remember, but they had to like kill off giant, what do you call a group of cows, herds of cows because of it. And I think at the beginning, we didn't know how bad it was going to be. Are we ever going to be able to farm beef again? How badly are people going to be affected by this? Prions are extremely hardy. So if you do a surgery on someone with prion disease, and then even after you disinfect the tools, you do another surgery, like the next person can get it. It's that crazy. And I think potentially that was when they started thinking about prion disease as being maybe one reason why dinosaurs went extinct. I don't think it's the most popular reason. I think most people agree on the asteroid theory, but I think probably Crichton was just grabbing onto whatever was exciting in the science world at that time, and that's why he chose prions. It's kind of random otherwise if you don't think of it in this kind of time and place context, because we don't talk about prions anymore. Like, when's the last time you heard about mad cow disease? Like, it's like it just went away. Like COVID was supposed to just go away. So anyways, I think it's kind of interesting that that it was such a big deal. I think it's really interesting that it did just kind of go away to start off with, but obviously Michael Crichton was quite concerned about it at the time of writing this book.
Yeah.
That's really interesting context. I'm glad you shared that with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that adds a lot of perspective.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like that I like the fact that he gives a reason. I do like that. Because it's gives you a little bit of closure on like understanding why all of the animals are the way they are. And like when they explain like why all of those bigger dinosaurs are like in that raptor nest, the skeletons that is, because they died but they went downriver, so the raptors just built their nest around there. I like that there are explanations of certain things. But overall I just feel like there's a lot just missing, a lot of explanation not there. And not that I want this book to be any longer than it is, because it's long enough. But things that could have been explained, and maybe it is that. Maybe there was intention of continuing a series. I don't know that I would go past the second one. I mean, I'm kind of over it at this point. It's just there's too much repetitiveness, problematic characters. And quite frankly, if any island needs to be blown up, it's this one. And yet we have no closure on that. It's just like, oh, well, we messed with their ecosystem, so we're going to go ahead and leave it be now. Okay. Sounds good.
So I have a question. If some other author, some really good other author wrote a third book, would you pick it up from another author?
I would read the synopsis online and check for other reviews before I read it myself. I would be curious to see what someone else would do with this and maybe make it less sexist and less like copy paste from the first book. But yeah, I would wait before I read it for sure if I did read it.
I would do the same thing I do with any book, and that is wait until I can find it in a thrift store and read it. So it might be 20 years before I see it. But no, I wouldn't like, oh, I got to get that from the library. I would be very skeptical, regardless of the writer, because I feel like sometimes when you have a different author, sometimes they just try to continue whatever that is by tweaking a few things, and then you have the same drivel. So for me, I would have to like wait it out, like wait for the hype to die down, see what people say, and then just wait to find it, because it's not on the top of my list at this point. I'm very happy that I read these. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm ecstatic that I read Jurassic Park, because I think that one was great. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to any third book anytime soon.
Christy says Sarah is secretly writing book 3.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, if you write it, I'll read the first half and let you know.
I'll buy it immediately.
Yeah. Okay, let's move away from the island for a second, and let's just talk about, and we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but the people who died, essentially. So there are less people in this book, I feel. So there weren't as many deaths, but the deaths that happened were pretty significant. So we have Diego right away in the beginning, and at first read, you assume it was a raptor, but later on you find out it was a different dinosaur. Diego was Levine's like guide of the island. Then we have Eddie Carr, who fell off the high hide and was eaten by raptors. We have Howard King, who I forget who he was eaten by. Raptors. I think it was raptors.
I don't remember. Oh my gosh.
I forget.
Oh yeah, he was running. Yes, he was running away from the Jeep, because those other dinosaurs were trying to get into the Jeep, which we later find out is because of the egg. And then we have this Balston, who gets eaten by the T-Rex, and then Dodgson, who gets eaten by T-Rexes, the babies. Which I do have to say, when the T-Rex bit his leg, that was sad. I was like, oh, ow. And then he's like, the flesh of his face, and he's watching the little baby T-Rex eat the flesh of his face. I was just like, oh gosh, it's too much.
Yeah, I would say compared to the first book, I felt like the violence was much more graphic in this book. It was pretty gruesome. Like, no, I don't know. There was definitely no sugarcoating anything. It was just like flesh being bitten off your face. Like, there was some of that in the first book too, but I felt like in the second book it was like much more vivid.
Yeah, I feel like the only character that we really see like that kind of flesh eating is Nidri, when he's like talking about like feeling the dinosaur on him. But nobody else is just kind of like, oh, he got by the raptors, or he got hit by this thing.
Oh, here's a leg. Yeah.
Here's a leg randomly that I'm gonna wrap up and take back.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one, everyone, it was like, oh, so we know how they died. We get it now. Yeah, the only one here, I mean, obviously Diego, you feel bad because he's just an innocent bystander, but we don't really get to know him, so he's kind of forgettable, but obviously one of the deaths. And Eddie, poor Eddie. And we've talked about that in length, but for the other three, do we feel anything? Do we care? Should they have died? Should they have survived? What are our thoughts there? We kind of went through it. Beat it like a dead Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I mean, they weren't great people except for Eddie, so
Yeah.
You know.
Like I said before, I kind of feel bad for Howard King. And he felt bad for Sarah because he saw Dachshund push her off the boat. So he was upset with that. And I'd love to say, like, they should have been brought to justice. But as we know, like, this world that they live in is outside of all of that. Like, they're getting away with stuff that the justice system doesn't even know about. So I don't even think that would have been an option. So let's move on to the survivors. We have Malcolm, Levine, Harding, Thorne, and the kids. So basically all the good guys other than Eddie.
Convenient.
Very convenient.
Yeah. I really thought that Thorne was going to bite it. I thought he was going to get it outside with those chameleon dinosaurs. So I kind of liked Thorne. But I think I liked Thorne because I kept thinking Thorne was a specific character from the movie. Someone who I really liked that dies in the movie. And I was like, I really like Thorne. And now that I've looked up the characters in the movie, like their names, I realized that the character in the movie that I really liked is actually Eddie. So... So I think they kind of combined those two characters. But I really think Levine should have bit it. I really think that he has learned nothing from this experience. He became a total wiener toward the end, like just not helpful. And I think he was too much in his head, thinking he was just observing, and because he was an observer, he wouldn't be affected by these real life living creatures. I think he just he thought he could just keep on going. And you would think after his first altercation with those dinosaurs that killed Diego, that he would be like, wow, this is real. Like we have to be careful. And he wasn't. He was just like, we're going to go on the high hide. We're going to do this. I'm going to follow these dinosaurs to the T-Rex nest. That was really bothersome to me, and I really wanted him to be the one that did it, but I guess rich kids always make it out.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know what you guys thought about the kids. I'm not a big fan of kids in books. Like that's a way overgeneralization. But yeah, I'd like to know your thoughts.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about the kids in the first live stream too, like why are there kids in this book? Which as a whole, like the generalization, there should not be kids in this book. There should not be kids in this book. However, they're there. So what do we think? First half of the book, I did not like Kelly. I thought she was kind of bullying Arby, and I didn't like her. But I really liked Arby because I was like, oh, he's like this little kid. He's really smart, and he's trying to be helpful. And, you know, you can tell he's scared. So he's like being authentic to himself. And then towards the end, when you get Sarah Harding in the picture, you see Kelly kind of come out of her shell a little bit and show that she is a lot more than just like being a brainer or whatever, which I didn't really see a lot of smart. I mean, she liked math, I guess, or she was good at math, but then all of a sudden she's on the computer, which I thought was Arby's thing. So it was like they were switching their characteristics a few times. But overall, being that they were there, they were fine. But again, anytime you have kids in the situation, one, you know, they're not going to die because you can't kill kids. And two, they get in the way. They're always like, oh, now we have to get the kids. And then someone dies because they're protecting the kids. So they're just a plot device that causes mayhem throughout. And the whole scene where Sarah Harding and Kelly are on the motorcycle, I'm just like, this kid's never shot a gun. She's never shot a gun on a moving motorcycle. She's never shot a gun on a moving motorcycle behind somebody where she can't hold on to them. I'm just like, this is so.
Like, have you met kids? They can't hold.
Yeah.
They can't shoot guns. Like, have you met kids? Like, the gun would just like fly out of her hand. Like,
she would have dropped it. The first time she shot it, it would have literally pushed her off of the bike. Yeah. She's what, 13, so she's like 100 pounds wet. You know, I don't like kids in books. No, I don't. Well, not adult books. Like when it's a book about adults, I don't like kids in there.
I think you hit it on the head when you said plot device. Like they're just there to up the stakes of the danger, and like we need to protect someone, like someone vulnerable. You know, we have someone very vulnerable on this very dangerous island. And that's really just why they were there. And that was, it annoyed me because we saw that in the first book, and then it was just like cookie cutter, do it in the second book, and it's unfortunate. I guess if anything sort of redeems it, I did like that they kind of switched the reversal of like the girl is kind of the one with the brains and like kind of saves them a little bit in the end with her computer skills and stuff. So at least that was different, but like still they shouldn't. I don't know. It was just rehashed again. So, and also I didn't like how they got to the island. Well, first of all, like no one's related to these kids. They're just kids that like Levine was teaching, and it's like kids might like their teacher, but they're not going to go put themselves in harm's way for a teacher that they like just because it didn't make sense. Like no one, like these kids don't belong to anyone. They're just there conveniently. So that also was just like, I don't know.
And I'm pretty sure they all have satellite phones. At no point did anyone call anyone's parents and be like, so your kids are here and we're going to go ahead and take care of them. We should be back tomorrow. No worries. Like, first of all, Arby is from a very prominent home. Like his parents are doctors or something. And I'm pretty sure they're going to miss their child coming home. Right. Now, the Kelly situation sounds like it's not a good home situation. So, like, maybe her mom wouldn't have missed her. Like, oh, maybe she stayed at a friend's house or something. But, like, this is an issue. And, yeah, like, at first I thought that the kids just thought they were, like, going to a different city for a field trip. But then when Arby was going through, like, he knew that they would be on a freight hauler. They knew that the temperature would be this. They knew it was going to be 12 hours. And, like, so they straight up knew that they were going to Costa Rica. No 11-year-old's gonna be like, yeah, let's do that.
No. Yeah, not even for a teacher they really like. Like, there's no way.
Especially smart kids like that. Like they're not even, doing it knowing that it's bad and doing it because they're bad kids. Like they're supposed to be smart, upstanding, nice kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
One thing that really irritated me about the kids just being there in general is for all the talk leading up to the kids suddenly being there on the island, is talking about weight and how they're trying to build everything to be lightweight and very, very strong. You can't tell me that at no point did they weigh this case or weigh anything and go, why is this 200 pounds heavier suddenly? Like, what's in this? We should go take it apart. I don't buy that anywhere. Like, they should have been discovered at the airport or something. Like, right away, I was like, this is BS. Like, there's no, I'm sorry, no. For all the talk about so much structure and making everything, like that cage specifically, that you could pick it up empty because it was so strong. And I think it was like 6 feet by 4 feet or something. It was big, but you could pick it up empty with one person, but not with a 100-pound kid who's probably all over the place because, again, it's an open cage. It's not a solid surface. So I'm sure it's just like rattling around like a marble in a cage, like this 90-pound whatever. That drove me bonkers. Like, come on. There's no way.
Yeah. I don't like kids in general, so no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But am I? Anywho, so let's move on because we've passed the hour threshold, and I don't want to keep you all any longer. The next question I was gonna put up here was issues with the book, but we have literally been talking about that the entire time. So I think we're golden on the issues. But the last question that we have to tackle is the adaptation, because quite frankly, it is the most upsetting piece of the entire equation. No, it's really not, but it does need to be talked about because it is such a difference. So Lost World was created into the Lost World film with Jeff Goldblum. And I'm just going to go ahead and before we kind of get into similarities and differences, I'm just going to share my screen again and show the cast list of the movie. So we can even see who is actually in the movie compared to the characters in the book. So again, bear with me while I switch this up. And we will grab. So we obviously have Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum again, and then Sarah Harding as Julianne Moore, which that's the only person I was envisioning this whole thing, but a little bit beefier, I guess. And then we have Kelly is in the book, and she comes over to the movie. And then we have Eddie Carr, who I thought was Dr. Thorne, but he's Eddie. That's it. Those 4 characters are the only characters that come over to the movie. Now, for those of you who recall the movie, we also have Vince Vaughn in the movie, and he is some random character. I would have thought he would have been the Levine character, but as we will discuss, what happened? So we have the book, we know what that storyline is, and then the movie happens. Does anyone want to explain what happens in the movie? And I can certainly do it too, because I've seen it so many times that I know we haven't rewatched the movie for some of us.
Yeah, I've never seen it at all, so I can't answer anything.
Okay.
No, yeah.
Okay, so in the movie, you have Ian Malcolm, and he is dating this Sarah Harding, who is pretty much the female character from the book to a certain extent. I would say she's more damsel in the movie than she is in the book. But Ian Malcolm has to come to the island because she's already there. So he's basically being pulled to the island to come and rescue her, essentially, because he's like, no, she shouldn't be there. She's going to get herself hurt. She doesn't understand these dinosaurs like I do. So he goes to the island to save her. And he goes with this band of characters who are also kind of going there as the second wave of Sarah's expedition. So that is this Eddie Carr character, who's the balding, what's the character's name? Richard Schiff. And Vince Vaughn, who's a photographer. Those two and Ian Malcolm go. They go to the island, and Kelly, who is Ian Malcolm's daughter, which doesn't make any sense because we never see like the mother, and I'm assuming it's because they're not together because obviously he's with Sarah Harding. But so Kelly is his daughter. So you don't know if it's like, is it a that's actually your daughter situation, or is it an adoptive daughter, or what? Because remember, this is only 6 years after Jurassic Park, and he doesn't mention any daughter in the first movie. And Kelly is clearly like 14 in the movie. So it's very confusing. Like, you don't really understand what is, and to be the person that says it, he's white and she's black. So you're like, is it an adoptive? They don't explain anything. So I just assume, well, it's his daughter and he's not with the mother anymore. And he just never mentions it in the movie because that's his daughter. So you're like, okay, cool. So then there is a whole nother group of people on the island, which is like military grade setup. And they are trying to collect specimens to bring back to San Diego for this new park that they have set up like a stadium. So they're going to bring back like the Tyrannosaurus Rex to just be in this stadium, like gladiator style. And there are so many people, like so many people. It's like army style. And they just all start getting picked off. Like random people are getting killed by the little copies. Like this one guy, he's like always plays a Russian in movies. He gets killed by the copies. Someone gets killed by raptor. Like they all running through this field and all the raptors just come and like kill a bunch of people. And they actually bring the Tyrannosaurus Rex and the T-Rex baby, which the whole trailer scene happens, but very differently. And that's where Eddie dies because he's trying to help them get out of the trailer. And it's actually 3 people in the trailer. Vince Vaughn, Ian Malcolm, and Sarah Harding. He helps them, but in helping them, the T-Rex eats him. So he doesn't get killed by raptors in the film. But they actually go to San Diego, and that's where my fear of like being in a traffic blocked area comes from, because like the T-Rex is just wreaking havoc on like the town of San Diego, just going everywhere and yelling at things. And he's in a pool with a kid in the bedroom, and he sees the dinosaur outside in his pool. So it totally, like, after leaving the island, it's not even the book anymore. It's not even the book anymore. So I don't even know if you can compare, because they're 2 different stories. 2 different stories. The majority of the characters aren't even in the movie. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think it's I don't even think you can call it an adaptation, because all you did was take the name of the book, the one main character or 2 main characters, and then you did whatever you wanted.
So my question is, which one did you enjoy more?
I enjoyed the book more.
Okay.
I feel like the movie is fun when you just see the movie. Like you're like, oh my gosh, this is fun. And this kind of makes sense, I guess. Like that there's this island, but I don't remember if they really explain the island. And the whole reason why the island is even a thing is because in the very beginning of the movie, there's these rich people vacationing on, like they pull up their boat, and then like the little girl goes and she finds the copies. So like from the beginning of Jurassic Park, the book, they take that scene and they use that for the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. So of course, John Hammond goes to Ian Malcolm and is like, oh, there's this island they're saying that there may be dinosaurs on it. And then he's like, I don't care. I don't want any of your crap. And he goes, well, Miss Sarah Harding is there. And he's like, oh my gosh, now I have to go and save her. So
I wonder if maybe Steven Spielberg read the book and went, "This is crap. I hate those kids. I'm writing my own movie."
Maybe.
That could be. Mhm.
I have no idea. I mean, and there's a lot of scenes, like, so there's scenes with the raptors because like Kelly and Sarah are like running from the raptors and they're in these buildings where in the movie you're like, where did all these buildings come from? Why are there buildings here? It's so weird because you're like, wait a minute, I thought this island just had dinosaurs on it. And then there's all these buildings, which from the, if you read the book, it would make more sense. And Kelly does her little gymnastic thing and hits one of the raptors off the pipes. And they get off, and then that's when they get to the helicopter, and then it switches to like now they're in San Diego with the T-Rex. Yeah, I don't know. I think by itself, I liked the movie. I don't think it's like anything spectacular like I liked Jurassic Park. But I much prefer the storyline from the book. I think the book is more like it makes more sense, so to speak, as far as like why they're there, what they're doing there, and all that. And I, quite frankly, I think there's too much in the book that as a filmmaker, the amount of vicious attacks by these raptors, I just don't think like as a filmmaker at that time, you could have had that many scenes. I mean, we know in the first movie that was all new technology, new CGI with the Tyrannosaurus Rex and everything. I think now with the new franchise, now they just have raptors everywhere, and raptors are the main, character in those films. But I don't know. Now that I've read the book, I'm irritated with how little they actually pulled from the book to the movie. It's like a different movie. It's a whole different story. It's not even the same book. It's not even the same story. Yeah. I feel like that happens a lot more than we think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, my husband's been begging me to rewatch. My husband wants to watch that one again because neither one of us have seen it in a really long time. So I'm going to watch it soon.
Yeah, I mean, by itself, it's not bad. And a lot of people die. I mean, a lot of people die in the movie because there's just all these extra people everywhere. Like, that's one thing I think is weird with the Jurassic Park franchise in general is like they just add all these different characters so they can just kill them off. And then the main characters, survive. So, and whatever you do not watch the third movie. It is terrible.
Yeah, I do remember the third movie being like a hot mess.
It's so bad. Like, it's not, there's some pieces, but again, there's a kid in it. It's the whole reason why they're there is because of this kid. But there's points where you're like, that's not possible, especially a specific character. I bring it up all the time. There's a specific character that survives with like one little scratch that there's no way he would have survived. And it makes me mad. So don't watch that. That's my least watched one because I think it's dumb.
How many movies are there in the total series?
I want to say, so I haven't really followed along on the current franchise, but I think in total there's 6 now. So there's 3 from the beginning and 3 in the new franchise, which the first one, Jurassic World, the very first one, I think they did a great job with that film. I have not seen the other 2. I think the third one is actually soon to come out. I don't think it's even out yet, unless it just came out or something.
I've heard rumors that they were maybe going to make one with like some of the people from the first movie coming back as like a reunion kind of movie. I don't know if that's true or not.
That'd be kind of cool.
I have seen that too, like little cameos and stuff. But like I said, I haven't followed it at all because I have been reading. So
yeah. As I have 5 DVDs from the library, I checked out like the first trilogy or whatever. That's all in one. And then I just grabbed the other 2 that were there. So I didn't know if there were more that were already out or if that third new one was out yet or not. So I'm gonna have a little watch party.
Yeah,
I think tonight or tomorrow.
I actually
Yeah.
enjoy the new ones because I like Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
I think the new
Well,
ones
and
are
they have a lot of comedy. They have a lot of comedy, and not that I mean, Spielberg usually puts a little bit of comedy in his as well. But I think with the new ones, with Chris Pratt especially, there's a lot of jokes and there's a lot of, you know, action on top of the jokes. Bryce Dallas Howard is in it too, and she's pretty good. The only thing I didn't like about the first movie is like she's literally running around everywhere in heels.
yeah.
Not possible.
And like a dress or a skirt or something.
Yeah, and she does like they make a point to like rip the skirt and like, but I'm like, you're still in heels. It would have been better for you to just take the shoes off.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, what do I know about wearing heels?
Right.
I can barely walk, so definitely can't run in them.
No, not the way she was running. She was leading
like
the T-Rex to the other. Like you would have tripped. I mean, I'm sorry. I know like some people wear heels every single day and you think you can do lots of things. You cannot. You can't. It's not possible. So I don't have any more questions, but if anyone has anything else that they wanted to add as far as like thoughts that they had about the book or anything that like popped out at you. I know the one thing that I think somebody brought it up in comments during one of the Jurassic Park discussions, and it was revealed in Lost World, but there is a very small reveal about Sarah Harding because she says her dad worked as a veterinarian at San Diego Zoo, and we know from the first book that the veterinarian Harding, so we know that they're related. So there's a little bit of connection there, and I liked that, but I was like, well, aren't you gonna like elaborate on that? Like you're just gonna mention it. You're not even gonna, nothing else is gonna happen. You're just gonna be like, oh yeah, these 2 characters are related and they both survived total dinosaur invasion. Seemed weird. What is Christy? I wear heels and a friend watch me walk. What time are you hurt?
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend that she walks on her tiptoes, which I don't understand why people do that. But so when she wears heels, it's even worse because you're forced to kind of walk more heavily on that. So it's like she is a little T-Rex. So, yeah. Yep. There we go. Oh, yeah. It's a very small. Sarah Harding is talking about what they feed the animals at the zoo, and she says that her dad was a vet at the San Diego Zoo, and then Malcolm just says, your dad was a vet? And then that's it. Mm-hmm. And to us, knowing from reading the first book, we know that the veterinarian was named Harding, and he had worked at the San Diego Zoo prior to coming to work for John Hammond. So
I did notice in this book as well, like the girl in this book was dosing a lot of people with morphine as well. And I think, you know, you have to be really careful when you dose people with morphine because you can kill them. And people who are not trained in dosing other people with morphine, that being that they are not physicians, really shouldn't be doing it.
Well, in the book, it seems like everybody can do it.
Right.
Yeah. And why do they have so much morphine? Like, it is a controlled substance. You can't just go to Shoppers Drug Mart and buy a thing of morphine. Like, it's...
It seemed to be in like every first aid kit that they had. Like, oh, because they put how much morphine into the T-Rex, how much morphine into Malcolm. I mean, they had morphine all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morphine black market.
Oh, yeah. So overall, I mean, I'm super pleased that I read this duology. I know, Laura, did you want to mention anything about the art on the front and the back of the book?
Yes. Sorry, I just lost power in my house. I don't know why. So we talked the first time about like how this is so weird. Like, is this 2 arms or 1 arm? What is this? But I was looking at the back cover last night.
On this one?
No, on this one.
Oh.
So you can see like.
Oh yeah.
Is it 2 hands?
Yeah. What's going on there?
What's happening?
But then the back of this. Look at this. Like, what is that coming out of its butt?
I don't know.
Like, why is there a bone there?
There is. There is.
Oh my!
It looks like a crutch.
Like what is that?
I don't know.
What is that? I know. I was just like, what the hell is this?
It's a fossilized dinosaur poop.
Maybe. Yeah, it's coprolite. Yeah. Oh my God, I know. I don't get it.
I never realized that until you said it, but now it's like really bothering me because, like, what is that supposed to be? And did no one at any time go, hey, you can't put that on the book.
Right. I mean, I am not Ross from Friends, but I am pretty sure there's not a bone that's that large sticking out that angle out of the butt of any kind of animal. Yeah.
I don't know. I think there might be
What is it?
That looks smaller than this one though. Even compared to the size.
But does size matter?
I know. That's what you do.
Well, what is that supposed to be then?
I don't know.
It's like a tailbone of some
kind.
kind.
But his tail is higher than that.
I know.
Part of his pelvis?
Yeah, pelvic bone.
It's literally the same size as its thigh bone. Like that. I don't know.
Well, maybe this is a boy T-Rex.
Maybe.
I think it is.
I know.
Aye. Okay, friends. Well, we're almost at an hour and a half. I really don't want to take up all of your time today, but I truly, truly appreciate everyone who has participated in our Jurassic Park and Lost World read-along. I have to say thank you to all of the ladies that are here today, Victoria, Laura, and Sarah. Thank you so much. Thank you to Ramsey and Ryan, who have been in past live shows, as well as Una. Thank you so much for all of your thoughts and all of your ideas that you've shared with us. We've had some backscene people. Christy, thank you for joining us in our discussions here. I know Noah and Ange as well out there thinking about us. So I want to thank you all so very much for participating. It's been super fun. Sarah, especially to you for your science video, and Victoria for your music video, Laura for all of your bingo cards. And of course, Ryan, I think he's coming up with something spectacular for us. If it's not already posted, I may have missed it. But thank you all. It's been a pleasure. I always love doing these, but the best part is doing it with friends. So thank you so much for all of your help and participating and just giving your thoughts, your honest opinions, because obviously we can't all think the same way. So I appreciate that so much. Everyone who is watching this in replay, who has participated in our chats as well as commenting, I appreciate you as well. And hopefully this will continue on next year with something even better. So to everyone who's here and everyone who's watching, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Danny.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.